Anything exciting? Non-business exciting?
There's a lot of activity.
A lot of yard work.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity in terms of calls and stuff
Is it?
happening over the holiday, yeah.
Oh, good. It's a good sign. So, well, awesome. All right. Well, I guess if nobody's got anything, you're up.
Okay, great. Thanks, thanks, Russ. My name's Paul Jolly. I know a lot of you. Jen, Peter, I don't know your name exactly.
Cody.
Cody, yeah. But in any case, I'm with Inspiro Financial. As you know, we're the preferred and affiliated mortgage partner of Century 21 Everest. Just a couple things. Interest rates, we're going to keep this up to date. Interest rates 3.65 for conventional, 3.75 for an FHA. You can actually get that to 3.25 for an FHA pretty easily, and also for conventional. $700 will get you down to 3.5%. So there's a premium there. But rates are low. The market is again, it's pretty good. There's lots of activity. I made comment here this morning in dissent that Utah has the most millennials out of any of the states. It came out on Utah Business this last weekend, and you know, people are kind of going, well, what does that mean to me? It means that we have a force out there that are purchasers. They are finishing up their education, going to school, making preparations for the future. They're maybe living with somebody, they're sharing with somebody, they have apartments, they're out there, and they are eager to purchase homes. And the key is trying to find where they're at and targeting them. We have gone to lengths to try to identify where they're at. We know they're kind of up and comers, but that's a great audience. Of course, they're buyers, and I know a lot of you like to focus on sellers, and that's great too. But in any case, if we can help you out in any way, out there trying to make things happen and create a little bit of a stir, we're happy to do that. In terms of Inspiro, any questions, thoughts, anything that we can help out with in your business? Okay, if you have a moment and you haven't yet, stop by. We're on the first floor, just off to the left when you're coming into the building, and love to get to know you better and kind of tell you about the magic that we can help provide.
Cool.
Okay.
So I guess I was wrong. They were waiting for me to quit talking
Hey.
and for you to start. Then they'll show them.
You got a great crowd. Does everybody have a journal? Anybody does not have a journal? Okay. Sure. Yes, great. We have lots more too. Anyone else that need one? All right, great. Thank you again for your association. We look forward to seeing you in the trenches.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
All right, you guys ready to play some Jeopardy?
Woohoo!
So here's how we're going to do this. Let me get this brought up here so you can see it. All right, so I'm going to have you guys get into teams, and looks like we have. Perfect. So let's get into groups of 4. So we'll have 3 teams with 4 people per team. So figure out who you're. Yeah, that one's easy. You guys 4 over there. So figure out. Now, here's how we're gonna do. We got to decide on some rules for this. Sorry. Let's do it. All right. So what we're gonna do is I'll keep track of your points over here. Let's see. All right. Oops, sorry, that's not good. Okay, so let's decide how this, we got a couple things we gotta decide on with this Jeopardy thing here. So, if somebody answers wrong, do you lose points? Do you wanna lose points or do you wanna say you don't lose points?
Yeah, little play.
What? Okay, that's fine, I'm okay. If you guys wanna not lose points, that's fine.
My points are
Yeah, now here's the other thing then. So how we're gonna do it, so we'll have the board up here. So Jen mentioned, and maybe I shouldn't call you out by name.
Rafa.
Anybody else not know how Jeopardy works?
I kind of know.
Okay, I'll explain it to you. Which I'm not gonna be hard fast on the rules like on Jeopardy. In Jeopardy, you would choose from one of these categories, it gives you the answer, and then you have to come up with the question. So you have to answer in the form of a question. I don't really care if you answer in the form of a question. I just want to make sure you can get the answer, okay? I get to be the judge on if it's close enough or not, meaning because what's going to happen is you will say something and then I'll say, no, that's not correct, and you're going to argue with me, oh, that's close enough or whatever. So I'll be the final judge on that. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to remember what problems usually come up during this game. So
No, when the problems come up.
yeah, I guess so. We'll deal
Have you
with
ever watched Celebrity Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live?
it. Yeah. Yeah, no context. So, okay. So here's what we're gonna do. So to decide, since we're all evenly matched, sometimes how I will decide is if like we have an odd number in one of the groups, one of them had fewer people, then I would just say, okay, well that group gets to go first. But since we all have 4, here's what I want. Is each team bring one person up here. We're gonna do rock, paper, scissors to see which team goes first. So each team sends someone up here.
You're going up?
We're counting on.
All right, Kelly. Yeah, no contact.
I don't know how to play it.
You know how to play rock, paper, scissors?
Well,
you guys will go first.
Can you explain?
You don't know shit.
I'm just kidding.
All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. Are you ready? So you two go first.
Oh, wait.
All right, start again. You guys gotta get in the same
I know how to
rhythm.
play.
I know. Apparently not. Okay, get in the same rhythm. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, do it again. All right, she won.
She went.
All right.
Oh,
I know. Stay there. You gotta, wait. You're not done yet. Now you gotta see if you can beat Evan.
Okay.
No, she's got it.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay. You guys are first.
Dang, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm the rock.
He's the rock. Okay, so this team's gonna choose. Now, with that being said, even though they get to choose the category, anybody can answer. Oh, that was the other rule. So here's the thing. To buzz in, since we don't have actual buzzers, the way you're gonna buzz in is you gotta like scream or do something like. But it's gotta be audible. You can't just raise your hand because I'm gonna probably be standing looking this way. So audible, you gotta be audible, and then whatever team did not, it'll help me decide, I guess, if there's a tie. Or we'll Rochambeau some more.
Well, how does this, so isn't there a timer? Be a little more
Yeah,
specific,
5
so
people.
so somebody chooses and then anybody can yell out.
So
anybody who knows the answer can yell out first.
And their team gets to answer the question. Whoever. So don't yell out the answer. Let's make sure that we're clear of that. You don't yell out the answer. Just something like that. Does that make sense? All right. So since you guys won, you get to choose. Which of the categories are we going?
You choose, you won, so you choose. You go after.
Just
They have
choose.
5,
Just
though.
pick one.
Contract.
This isn't fair. They have 5.
Yeah. Good point. She won't answer. All right. Contracts for what? For 200. Okay. So now, just to make sure everyone's aware, any team can answer. So if you think you know the answer, make some type of audible noise so that and I'll try to watch as well.
Yeah.
Do audible and then we'll, but so don't scream out the answer because you may give it away to somebody else. Ready? Answer is in writing. Okay. Okay, no, that is not correct. See, so it's a good thing you said you don't lose points, or you'd have lost 200.
What is that ballot?
Okay, but there's a term we're looking for specifically. Oh, gosh. This was on the test.
I know.
Sure,
An enforceable contract?
that's true, but that's not the right answer.
What is the again?
No. I now understand why the division said there needs to be this 12-hour new agent course to actually go to.
Legal?
This you picked a bad one to be the first question.
What is an offer?
Nope. So
What?
Think-
What?
What is a contract?
Think
What
of
is- wait, no.
that is true, but think of it this way. What we're looking for is there is a term for that would make something a contract. So there's your hint.
You're not recording this.
You got to be audible, not just raise your hand. Okay.
Wait. No, you do that. I forgot it. Okay. Wait. Legal and to be legal and binding, the contract has to be.
In writing, that's true. But what's the term?
What is the signature?
No. Well, this game is going to take a long time.
What is a legal and binding contract?
Correct. That is right. It has to be in writing. But what's the term for that? You guys are all going to go, oh my gosh, as soon as I tell you.
What did we
It's-
pass? Did we
Can-
pass?
Well, we're about to in a second.
A buyer agent?
There's a term. So, okay, I'll give you another hint. Let me give you another hint. There are certain things that there are elements to a contract, which is what we're going to be talking about on these. One of the elements of a contract is that it has to be in writing, and there's a term for that.
What needs to be in
And you guys are going to die tonight.
I know. I just can't put it in a word. I have to.
Is everybody giving up? Are we giving up, or do you want me to show you, or no?
Yeah, show us.
No one wants to give one last try? I probably should have said you have to
Can we
lose
just
points.
pass it?
All right, we're going to pass it, and then we'll go back and let them choose another one.
Yes, that's your front.
Oh. The statute of frauds says that it has to be in writing. So, meaning if you and I had an agreement saying that if you do this, I'll do that, that could be a contract, except for just having it verbally agreed to does not meet the statute of frauds.
That answer is super vague though. I mean, so many things.
I know.
So we all get 200 points.
Yeah. Okay, y'all
It's
get
your
200
fault.
points, so now you're all even. So I know, sorry, my bad. I probably should have said something else, like maybe that it was part of the elements of a contract.
You could have just like thrown what statute stipulates.
There you go. That would have been a good. That would have been a good hit. All right, back to you guys again, since nobody won. Pick another call.
Since you're all terrible.
Yeah, since you guys all suck. No, what it means is I didn't do a very good job in teaching the class. So although we didn't talk about
That's
statute,
right.
but you can blame me. All right, which one are you going with now?
Agency?
For the 200?
Or should,
I know. I think next time I'm going to say you have to lose points because then you're not so eager to just answer. All right, here we go. The proper time to disclose who you represent.
Make a sound.
Yeah, I was going to say there was no audible in that. You're gone. Okay, I guess works.
And now I forgot what I was saying.
We're having a lot of that. I know, right?
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
When you go into contract with an agent, when you go into contract with a seller or buyer.
Okay, so let me make sure you understand this question. The proper time to disclose who you represent.
When you
Okay.
go
That's not when you go into contract.
immediately, like, you do that right away. I mean, as soon as you are, say, start talking to somebody right away, you're supposed to be.
Okay, good. So I would say that's close enough.
Yes.
Are you disclosing to another agent or?
No, to me.
No, so yeah, so think of it this way. Let's say that you were meeting somebody out at a property to show them your listing. when should you disclose who you represent? Because who do you represent if that happens?
The seller.
Yes.
You're representing the seller, so when should you disclose that to the buyer?
When it's in
Right.
play,
First time you talk to
Right away.
when it's in play.
Yeah, so here's what the answer is prior to executing a binding agreement is what, so now think of it this way. Here's how the division has it defined, is you should be disclosing who you represent prior to executing a binding agreement, meaning, which to some extent is prior to you writing an offer with them. But here's the intent of the law. The reason that the law is written that way, the intent is that you should do it as soon as practical, is the intent of the law. Meaning as soon as it's, so think of it this way. What that means is you don't have to, like, as soon as you get out of the car, you don't, let's assume that Jared is meeting me to look at this house, and he's at the house. I park and get out of the car. I represent the seller. Good to meet you, I'm Russ. Like, that's not what it's saying, but the intent was as soon as it's practical. So when would it be the most practical time to do that is when you should do it. Meaning, ultimately, here's how I would say you need to make sure to do that. Because let's say you get a call from somebody off of one of your listings of, hey, I want you to go show me your property. So you show up to show them the property. Really, for me, the time to make sure they understand that is as soon as they start to either show some interest in the property and or they start to ask questions that would let you know they aren't understanding how this whole agency thing works. So I need to let them know. As of right now, I'm representing only the seller. I would be happy to represent you, in which case we would have to sit down and talk about it at that time. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so
Do we get the point?
yes, you get the point. So you guys are going to be Team C here. So you're at 200.
We always tell them that's fine now.
How are we here?
Now you know why they're making us redo this as part of it.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you guys answered it, so you get to choose the next category.
Agency reporter?
All right.
That's not.
Now, so keep in mind that a lot of the times on some of this stuff, here's the idea of this game, is just keep in mind there are certain things that the division wants to make sure you understand or you learn in school, is to some extent what we're doing. So as you go through this, think about, we're talking about agency, what would this be referring to, okay? So obligates the agent to obey all lawful instructions from the principal. All right, good job, then fine, we got some
Nice.
noise. Excellent, that is correct.
Nice.
He said loyalty. So what we're talking about is this is one of your fiduciary duties. Is whoops.
Oh, close enough. You even got it wrong. We need a new teacher. That's why we don't know how to play this game.
Exactly. I suck at this game. Yeah. So you're wrong. I guess
I know
should-
the answer. Obedience.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Should we start this whole game over again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we know the answers. Okay. So. Yeah, I blew that one. I'm sorry. That was my bad. I should have buzzed you. No. All right. One of our fiduciary duties is obedience. We have to obey all lawful instructions from the principal. So we talked about, I think it was last week or within the last couple of weeks anyway, of when you have a signed agency with somebody, you are now have those fiduciary duties. And you have one of those being obedience. You have to obey them. And I don't remember if I shared this with you or not. So if I did, stop me and I won't reshare it. But I had a guy that had called me up, wanted to go look at a property. And I can't remember if it was my listing or not. It doesn't matter. So I drive out and I show him the property. We're out there, and I forget the numbers, so I'm going to make them up. But let's say the property was worth $200,000. So we go out and look at this property. It's worth $200,000. And he says, well, I want to think about it. If I'm going to write an offer, I'll call you back. Great. Calls me a little bit later, says, hey, I do want to make an offer on that property. Excellent, let's do it. And he says, I want to offer $100,000 on the property. It's listed at 200. And I said, like, okay, but is that, like, what are you willing to pay for the property? And he said, I'm willing to pay $100,000. And I said, well, you're not going to get it for $100,000, so what are you really willing to pay? He says, that is my top dollar, is I'll pay $100,000. And I said, well, then I'm not writing the offer for you. And he said, I'm in real estate school right now, and one of the fiduciary duties you owe to me is obedience.
You're not his.
So you have to go write the offer. So do I have to go write the offer?
No.
You do if it's legal.
It's lawful, as long as it's lawful.
Okay, so I'm hearing a bunch
Well,
of
you don't
yeses,
know,
and
'cause
I never
you don't
said
have
no.
agency. You don't have agency.
That's the key. Did I have agency with the guy?
You
No.
don't know.
I had just met him out there to show him the property, so I did not have agency. He was trying to tell me, you have to do this. Now, if I had signed agency with him and he said, write the offer, yes, I would have to. But because I didn't have agency, I didn't have to.
So if somebody's signing a contract with you, no matter what ridiculousness is going on, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to write it.
As long as it's lawful.
Okay.
As long as what they're asking you to do is lawful, then yeah, you have to do it.
So was he doing that just to
I have
test
no
you,
idea.
or you
Like,
never found
he
out?
said, I'm gonna call your broker, and I said, go for it, and then I hung up and ran to my broker's office. And I was like, I wanna make sure that I'm okay at this, and he said, yeah, you don't have agency with them. So he said, where he's getting confused is because he's thinking you have a fiduciary duty, which I didn't, because he was just a,
But may I, so on the flip side, so if you represent the seller, you need to at least present the seller the offer.
No,
Not if you know what the seller's willing to take.
because he doesn't have to write it up if he represents the seller. The buyer's agent.
But if you receive an offer,
If it was in writing, you would have to present it to the seller.
that's correct. So
If it's a
if
verbal offer, you don't.
yeah, if it was written up, then yes, I would have had to go present it to myself. But because he just called me on the phone and said, this is what I want to do, and I want you to write the offer, and I said, I don't want to write the
So if I say on the email, Russ, I want to offer this seller this amount and send it to you, how does that?
that's no.
offer. Well,
So if I'm emailing it to you, that's the same as writing.
but yes, the question is, am I representing you or the seller? Or both?
Both.
If I'm representing both, so I have agency with both, and you did that, then yes, I would go present it to the seller.
But just because you have agency. Like if she just out of the blue, you were the seller's agent, and she out of the blue said, "Hey, I want to offer this guy $100,000." You don't have to present that, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have to write it up, but if I got it as an email, I would send that to the seller.
Okay.
Hey, here,
Just to cover
hey,
yourself.
yeah, I would just send it, say, hey, just got this email. Let me know what you wanted, how many you want me to respond.
Okay.
Good question. So nobody's getting points because I screwed up on that. Sorry. we were both wrong. All right. Back to, I guess, still you guys. You guys are just gonna choose the whole time.
Contracts for 800.
All right. Now we're gonna start.
We're not losing points, so.
Yeah, you know what? From now on, I will let it slide today. After today, though, I'm making you have to lose
Yeah,
that.
you should take double points away from now on.
That's right. All right. So contracts for 800.
Do
Here
we
we
win
go.
something? I mean, I don't really care if you take my points away.
I know, right? All right.
Your
A
license.
sacrifice and a benefit. So this is, remember again, we're talking about contracts and what would make a valid contract. There has to be a
And-
sacrifice and a benefit. What would that be?
Consideration.
After the last one, I don't dare answer anybody. I don't know. Could be. I don't know. What other thoughts? No, I don't think it's not.
BB?
Earnestly?
I know it's not earnest.
So in contract law, what is the sacrifice of benefits?
Yep.
What is seller disclosure?
Nope.
Ah. No, it's not a sacrifice.
Now I'm second guessing myself, but I think I know the answer.
What is marriage?
High five.
That's a good one.
Now I don't think it is. But if it is, you'll get the answer right. Let's see if there's a.
You're looking at him thinking hard.
Seems
I
like
should
a pro.
I should have reviewed all these before I started.
What is a contract?
No.
Oh, did someone say that
No,
already?
it's not.
Yeah, I don't really know any of these answers either. We're just guessing.
I keep thinking,
Oh,
what
that
is
makes
the
it
earnest
weird.
money?
So here's what I'm thinking it is. I'm not going to tell you. I'll give you a hint. In the contract, it might be consideration.
Well, what's the other thing?
I don't want to tell you. Should we check it?
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm sorry.
Well, you should have
I'm
a
really
fantasy.
screwing this class up.
No, I'm Marty.
Come on. I hope it's be consideration. Then I'll be. I'm glad I didn't ruin mine. So.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. That was you. This is you guys, right?
Explain that one.
I will.
Okay.
Hey, that's
No, no,
fantastic.
that's
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, I haven't decided which one
Let's
you
go.
guys. A or B? One to A.
We wanna do this.
Just remember who you are.
We are the neighbors.
Just remember who you are and what you stand for. All right. So let's explain this. So, in order for a contract to be valid, there has to be a sacrifice and a benefit. So, in our contracts, what is the sacrifice for the seller? What would be the sacrifice, and what's the benefit for a seller? So they're sacrificing the property for money. And on the buyer side, what's their sacrifice and benefit?
Money.
They're sacrificing the money for the property. Does that make sense? And that would be called consideration. So for the property, for the contract to be valid, there's got to be consideration, which is a sacrifice and a benefit. All right. I promise I'm going to get better at this. All right. So you guys get to choose.
Let's do contracts for 1,000. We're not losing any money.
I know. That's where I know.
You should,
There's
you know,
no
your next
fair.
class, you should take double points away.
That's what we should do. Okay. So now we're kind of getting the flow of the contracts thing, right? So this is going to be the same type of a thing here. A meeting of the minds. This is the one I was just thinking. Okay.
Crap, what's the name of
You gotta be loud. I didn't hear you.
Yo, what is me?
She said right there. What? I still can't hear her. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so you guys ought to help me judge. Who buzzed in first?
I just heard the me.
All right. Sorry. So far, hey, here's the good news. So far, we've all been so bad at it, you're gonna get a chance. So go ahead. Go ahead, Samantha.
That's negative. That's wrong.
And,
What is medication?
No.
yeah, see, no, that's wrong.
What's mediation?
No.
Nope.
There we go. Okay, Kelly.
I know.
Mutual agreement.
What was it?
I don't know if that's exactly the right word.
You can high five already.
That's one of us.
I sucked at this, but I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah! So what did he say?
He said mutual agreement, but
Yeah, mutual assent.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the term that Brian Swan used.
oh, was it?
Yeah.
That's right, mutual.
Mutual
Close
agreement, mutual assent.
Okay, so the meeting of the minds is offered on our contract. That is the offer and acceptance. So we've got in section 25 is the offer and time for acceptance, where we have that. So that's where the meeting of the minds occurs. We make the offer, they accept, and all right. Here's what's funny is I actually did, if I'm being honest, I did kind of go through this quickly before. I was like, okay, I gotta make sure I remember everything. I've done this for close to 10 years, probably, this class. You would think I would know the answer, and especially since I created it.
You didn't answer sheet.
But for some reason, I'm blowing it today. All right, so you guys.
And you do it 4 times a year, don't you?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I've done this 40 or so times.
Why is there 2 agencies?
We have 200.
Because there's a lot. There's a lot they want you to know about agents.
Okay. What do you guys want? We're Team X. We're a union.
We're a union.
Federal lost 1,000.
All right. Oh, all right. We're going for the big stuff.
Boom.
All right. So now, let me tell you, these ones are not going to. I mean, when you're 1,000-point one, it's going to be tough. Unlike the last one. Now, remember, we're talking about a federal law. So what I'm looking for is you guys to tell me what the law this is. All right, here we go. Issues relating to noise, air quality, water, wildlife, etc. What is the?
Where's the green?
What is land rights? Oops.
And actually, let me even on this one. It's more of a.
By consideration?
So this one is more of a division than a law. So okay. Go. You guys get so excited about buzzing in, then you go, I know. I forgot. Final answer? Yeah. Okay, correct.
What is it?
He said the Environment EPA is what he's it's the Environmental Protection Agency. So what is their job? What is the job?
I don't think that's,
That's what?
I don't think that's clear. I would have never thought that's an agency you're talking about when that's the answer.
Well, I said it's more of a group.
Yeah, no, you told us, but it's just kind of, I'm just resentful of your
All right, back to you guys.
Oh,
They're on a roll.
we're throwing down state laws for 1,000.
All right.
State sucks.
Yeah. From now on, you have to lose points.
Did anybody write that down?
All right. All documents. This one should be 1,000 points. All documents reflect the true terms. Now, so this one is a state thing that there's a. Okay.
What is REPC?
No.
Ah! Oh.
This is looking for more of a term. So there's something in the law that they call it. There's a term for this that what it means is
Ding, ding, ding,
that
ding.
the all the documents have to reflect the true terms. Okay, go ahead.
What is disclosure?
No. In fact, I don't know if I'm not going to discourage you. I'll wait and tell you. This one's a tough one. It's tough, but I'll give you the hint. 2 words is what the term is for this.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
How do you get for?
No.
It's just a term.
It's just a term. This is a tough one. It probably was on the test potentially at some point, but it is tough.
What's it been going past this test?
I know, right?
Multiple choice.
We all passed it.
Multiple choice.
Multiple choice.
Yeah, that's what it was. And that is true, and this one's not multiple choice.
Yes, that's what's happening.
Yeah, the multiple choice you can go, well, it's not that, and it's not that, so it's either this one or this one.
That one sounds more correct.
Yeah, this one sounds good.
Hey,
I'll give you another hint.
Hey, great.
Yeah, he's not gonna find
Yes, I wrote it down.
so it's 2 words. One of the words is the opposite of one of the words you can see on the screen.
Oh gosh. Oh.
And there's ding 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 ding.
Okay.
False statement.
Close, no. You got it half right. False is correct. False is the first word.
False consideration?
No.
I just
In fact, let me tell you, I don't know in this class.
Are you counting all the points that are getting taken off?
I know. We decided. This is why I asked at the beginning.
Yes, you have to take them off to the next class.
I know I will for the next class. I will tell you, I've never had any class get it right. So do you want me to just give it to you?
All right, just give it to us.
No points awarded.
No point.
You don't want to keep trying. Close, but that's not right.
Ooh, false contract.
Okay, good.
False document.
Oh, very close. But it's
Ooh!
devices. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But so just think of it this way. Now, I'm not going to give you. I'll come back to this in a minute because there's another question that deals with part of what I'm talking about. So I don't want to give away that one at this point. But think of it as when you are using a contract that does not show the true terms. That would be called you're using in court. They would call that you're using a false device. Okay. So we'll come back to it and I'll explain more about that on when we get to the next one. All right, so back to Team B over here.
Oh,
You guys get to choose me.
agency account.
Alright.
Crap.
Are you ready?
Come on, team, we don't have any energy.
This one I have a feeling is gonna go quick, so. Yeah, you get some better unity back there. Here we go. Prohibits the agent from disclosing without permission any information given to the agent by the
Ding, ding,
principal that would likely weaken the principal's bargaining power position if it were known.
The fiduciary duties, confidentiality.
Okay, good job. I thought you were gonna say fiduciary duties, I was gonna say, yes, it's one of those. And it
Good
is
job.
correct.
Well
Good job. Good job.
Killed it.
Alright, which team were you guys?
Hey,
Well, we already eliminated obedience and loyalty.
Yes.
Alright, so confidentiality. So if the client tells you something that would weaken their position, you've got to keep it a secret. Now, what about this though? What if you got into the house and they filled out the seller disclosures and they said nothing was wrong with the house, nothing at all. But you're walking through the house and you notice like that as you're walking, you're kind of not drunk, but like the house is kind of saggy or something that's
That's a material defect, so we have to disclose it, right? Outside of confidentiality.
okay, good. That's what I wanted to talk about. Is just to make sure you understand. If they're saying something that would weaken their bargaining position, that's not, that hey, we have to sell, we have to be gone next week or whatever. That's something you wouldn't be able to tell. But if they were saying to you, hey, I don't want you to disclose that we had a flood here last week.
So here's one for you with that. So I showed a house to some people, and in the basement, they didn't have they should have covered the concrete. But anyway, they had a crack running from one end of the basement all the way, and it kind of followed the retaining wall in the middle, all the way from one end of the foundation to the other in the pad. And when I talked to the agent, I said, what is that? And it was half an inch to 3/4 of an inch separated. So you could tell that the foundation was settling
On the floor, or on the wall?
on the floor. So that what had happened is that foundation started to settle and it just cracked the whole panel.
But it was obvious, it wasn't even.
Oh, it was really obvious, but she told me, the neighbor had an engineer look at their house and they said it's fine. What do you,
So an engineer looked at the neighbor's
The
house
neighbor's
and said
house
it's fine,
had the exact
therefore
same
mine is
thing.
fine.
right. I mean, where does that come in the,
Well,
They're not
your customer
liars.
can see the
But
crack.
so I was gonna say that's the other thing that
that's a material.
where this
defect.
kind of it is material, but is it a what's the right word?
Were they trying to
Maybe
hide it
it's-
on purpose?
Yeah,
Or
you said it wasn't.
right there.
Yeah, they're not trying to hide it, but at the same time, I mean, they're not really giving correct information out about it. I mean, I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
it's
so
due diligence.
This
of
is
the buyer.
this is why we have courts, honestly. But because to some extent you would say, do you need to disclose that when it's clear
Right.
that it's
You need
meaning
to,
like
you have to disclose a reason for it. I guess not, right?
no.
Okay, that's my question. Because I showed a townhome that was sloping, like obviously, right? Like you were walking into the living room and then you were going down. And we were all like, okay, what is going on here? So I called the agent and she clearly was not going to disclose, she wasn't telling me anything. And then we had a friend whose contract was going to, this is probably bathtub, flooded. This, you can tell what happened. But she wasn't being forthright. So is that, what if you have a house you're listing and it's obvious the floor is uneven. Okay, there's an issue. It's not hard to figure it out when you're walking down in the living room, right? So, but she was very clearly not going to disclose, not going to fess up to any of that. Like, she goes, I didn't notice that.
I guess you get it when you get the set of disclosure.
So you should, but I would say here's the thing I would say is if you as an agent if you notice that
Yeah.
and you're representing the buyer, you should point out to the buyer, you should check if
Yeah,
you're
I did.
interested in this home.
Yes, I did.
You may want to. It seems like
What,
there's.
what do you advise the seller if you're the seller?
But what if the listing agent, what if you're the listing agent, they call you and say, hey, we noticed what's going on with this floor?
I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So
As a
yeah.
seller agent. what
Yeah,
do you
so I
do?
would ask the seller, hey, and if I truly had not noticed it, which is possible, I guess.
Unless you're,
I mean, I was gonna say without seeing it, it's hard. But let's just hypothetically say she never went. She stood at the front door and had him sign the paper.
Yeah.
That's possible. Then I would call the seller and say what happened. And if the seller said, I have no idea, I don't know what it is,
Yeah, that's what they said. And
then
that's,
yeah, then I would say, okay, apparently the seller is saying they don't know either. But yeah, you should check it out.
so it's not illegal for them to say, well, it kind of is if he knows really what happened.
If they know what's happened,
Yeah.
yes. So I'll actually give you a quick, I think I might have told you this actually. I got a call from
So
my
the
neighbor.
agent should tell her then, if you know.
Yeah, if you know, that's right. This confidentiality doesn't apply if you know something to be wrong.
But what if she, well, okay, I'm sorry to get into this. One more. Okay, so what if you're the listing agent, you notice it, and the seller says, I don't know. Then you just say, they say they don't know. That's
Yeah,
all you can
but
say.
if it, like you said, if it's like you're saying where it's clear, like what I was saying, you walk in and you're
Yeah,
gravity's pulling you
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, or you set a ball down and it always just
Yeah.
immediately rolls that way, something like that. Yeah, at that point, I would say, I don't know. I've kind of had both arguments and talked to an attorney, and one attorney said to me, if it's clear, like this crack you were talking about, if you walk down there and you can see a half-inch crack, like, do you really need to disclose that? My thinking is, when in doubt, you should. You're going to be protected better for doing that. The other argument could be, though, somebody buys the house and you say, well, like, how did you not see that there was a crack a half an inch wide like that? So I feel like, yes, I would say you still should. So if I'm the listing agent and I saw it and the seller's telling me no, I probably would say to a buyer's agent, hey, you should have that checked out.
Yeah, we just walked away from it. Like,
Yeah, more than likely that's what's going to happen if it's that.
I mean, the seller may not know what it actually is. Like, even though it's sagging, they
Yeah.
may not know what.
no, I think he
It
knew
is.
because the bathroom upstairs was remodeled. He knew. He knew there was a big flood.
But you should still point out, like, hey,
Or they said,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my question is, as the seller's agent, being on that other side, what do you advise your client to do?
If I would advise my client
To
disclose.
it?
In fact, I would even say, so let's use your example. I would tell my seller, disclose that the neighbor had theirs checked and they said there was no problem.
Okay.
Because then I'm now disclosing that to the buyer's agent. Hey, the neighbor had it
It's
checked and
more
they
than
said
one
there's
home, yeah.
anything. And I think I told you guys this before. I have an attorney friend that sold his house in Farmington. The buyers were not going to do an inspection, and so he took his seller disclosures and put like yes to everything. Checked yes on every single one of the answers and gave it to the people. Because he said, in the event you ended up in court, a judge would look at it and say, well, he said, yes, there was an issue. Why did you not check it out? He said it totally takes you out. So that's why for me, with the seller, I would say, disclose that. Like, you're better off as the seller disclosing, hey, we had an issue or whatever, there's this crack that's in the foundation. Because then the responsibility is put on the buyer. It's your get out of jail free. That's seller disclosure. So crucial. Yeah. So really, like if you're selling your house and when you get to any of the things, like you're almost better off to put yes, there are cracks there are multiple cracks in the foundation. And then ultimately it's up to the buyer to check it out. And if they don't, then they could never take you to court. I mean, they could, but a judge is going to look at it and say, they told you there were cracks. Why did you not check it out?
If you knew that if you listened to someone, they're doing their disclosure and then they gave it back to you and you could tell that they blatantly lied or they wouldn't disclose. Like as an agent, you have the duty now to them, right? So what would you do so that you don't have any?
So I would need a little more information when you say, if you know that they blatantly lied, like meaning you knew the house had burned down and they said there's never been.
Well, I guess when so I knew of a person who there's asbestos in the house. It was just you knew when the house was built, it was never remodeled, but that was never disclosed, and they wouldn't disclose it. So at what point, as an agent, do
you push your clients
Yeah,
to try to be honest.
I can't continue on with this, or do you have to because you've already signed the agents?
So I would say it's kind of in the scenario you're giving to me. I would probably just tell the seller, you didn't disclose that, but I know that there is, so I then have an obligation to. And if they said, well, that's fine, you can tell them, we're just not, okay, then I probably would be fine. If they were saying no, you don't tell them either, and if you do, you're violating the obedience. Then I would say at that point you probably need to say, okay, we need to terminate this agreement.
But you wouldn't be violating the obedience because it's not lawful instruction.
Yeah, and that's true. You wouldn't be, but at that point I would be saying, what else are they going to lie about to the clients? Okay, did I give you? Who got that? Did I give you your points?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Not enough.
Speaking of being honest, all right. Which I will say, you got to stay on top of me on the points because I will forget to do that. All right.
State laws for 400.
All right. Here we go. Answer is use of 2 or more contracts, one of which is concealed. So this is tied to that false device thing, but there's a term for when somebody uses 2 or more contracts, one of which is concealed. So one of them would be then a false device, but that's not the answer.
Ding ding. Dual contracts.
Close. I'll give it to you. Close enough. Double contracts.
Same
Close.
You guys are 8? Is that
Did
right?
you just finish school? Did you start like last week?
Right?
All this stuff is still in your brain.
Yeah, so double contracts. So let me give you, does everybody get this? Okay. Let me give you an example of this. And I'm always a little fearful of giving this example of this because I'm worried that you're going to go, that's a good idea. We should actually do that.
That's what I did with the whole fraud thing.
Did you? You're like, these are all great ideas.
ideas.
And this was, in fact, I participated in one of the, hopefully the statute of limitations is over on this. I participated in one of these not realizing that I did until after the fact, and then because in the late 90s, this was pretty common. We were seeing these type of things happening quite a bit, and a lot of agents were going around like telling people and other agents, "Hell, this is all you have to do." Well, here's what was happening is if and I'll just to make the math easy, let's assume that a property was for sale for $80,000. If you were going to go get a loan on that and you wanted to get 100% financing and it didn't exist at that time, there wasn't, you couldn't go get a zero down loan, but you wanted to buy that property for $80,000, here's what somebody had come up with this idea, is what you would do, and this first part is legal actually, by the way. What you would do is you would go offer the seller $100,000 for their house, and then ask the seller to do a $20,000 carryback, or a 20% down, basically. The seller agrees to finance $20,000, which, and on a purchase price of $100,000, then you would go get a loan for $80,000, which if you are getting an 80-20 loan, so you're getting a loan for 80% of the value, there's no mortgage insurance. Sounds good, right? What are the issues with that? Because there's a couple of issues that would come from that. Fraud. For sure, fraud.
So they're holding a second mortgage, so they would have to forgive that.
If the home is worth $80,000 and you were offering $100,000,
You can't get the car.
But you're doing a contract with the seller saying that carry the 20,000.
yeah. So the first issue that comes up is, can we get it to appraise for that? Well, the good news was back then appraisers would go, what do you need it to appraise for? Oh, okay, and then it would appraise for that. So that wasn't a problem. But then what would happen though is then there was a side agreement, which is, this is where this creates this double contract, was there would be a side agreement that, so Jared, you're going to give me I'm going to go get a loan from the bank for $80,000. You're going to seller finance $20,000 for me. We close on the property, but Jared and I had this separate agreement that after it closes, you're just going to forgive that note. And now I'm into the property. It's only worth $80,000. I bought it for $80,000. The loan's for $80,000. That's where that became an issue. Is what we can't do is have a separate agreement that's not in writing, saying after. Now, could he forgive the note? Can a seller forgive a note if they wanted to? Absolutely, they could. What you can't do though is not have that disclosed to the lender of saying, he's gonna seller finance 20,000, you're gonna give me a loan for 80,000, but then as soon as we close, he's gonna forgive that note and I don't have to ever pay it back. And like I say, in the late 90s, it was like, this is a genius idea. What a great way to get people in. No mortgage insurance, they're zero down. And then the division came out and was like, yeah, that's called double contract. You can't do that. And so then it kind of went away. Thank goodness. Anyway.
So the seller would do that just to where someone would find that home.
Well, but yeah, because let's say that it was your house and it was worth 80,000, but I come to you as the agent and go, I got an idea though.
I'll be like, I still want this.
What?
If I was a seller, I'd be like, oh no, I still want.
Yeah. Well, and there's
I'm
nothing
asking
wrong
it.
if you did that. Meaning, like, if as long as there was not an agreement that was going to be forgiven, and if the seller said, yeah, I'll do it, and take the 20,000 over whatever time, that is legal. What's not legal is to have the agreement up front that you'll forgive it afterwards.
So, but once the deal's done, if you go to the seller who's financing it, say, look, I just can't afford this, or for whatever reason, and they forgive it, then after it's
Nothing
all
wrong
done
with that.
repairs, right?
But as long as that could not be the agreement
Part
going.
of the-
Now, the other side of it is hopefully the appraisers are a little bit better now, and when I say better, meaning they got their hands slapped pretty hard with the mortgage meltdown. So hopefully they're.
But I could see that happening if it didn't appraise for quite what you needed to be able to get the loan, and they said, well, we'll do even today, the seller saying I'll finance the 10,000.
Yeah, which would be okay, except for that if you're getting an 80-20 loan, meaning you're getting a loan for 80% of the value and it doesn't appraise, now you're only getting.
Right.
Why wouldn't you just have the seller finance 20 grand off of the 80 and then take a loan for 60?
You could, except
they
for
want their
typically why they weren't doing it back then is because the seller was like, I need the cash at 80, I don't know at 60. But yeah, what you're thinking is right. You could totally do that. There's no problem with that. That's all fine. Just think of it this way. I already cleared it off. But any agreements that are happening, the lender has to be aware of those. If there is a loan going to be on the property, they have to be aware of all the agreements that you're having. All right, who got that? You did. Okay, what do we go next?
I'll let you decide.
Let's do federal law 200.
All right. Answer is, all have the same right in every state to purchase property. There's a law that says that. This is why I always do it. You got to make a noise because it gives us some irritation. What is it?
What is inherent?
Nope. All have the same right in every state to purchase equal.
Equal opportunities.
No. So good thing you were.
I was close to that. I wasn't gonna say equal opportunity, but
That is final answer.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
That is after I said that, right?
I'll just lead them on.
Yeah, the fair housing.
I'll leave that.
I know, right? Now you know why we have to do this. So, fair housing. The idea of this, again, is just tied to everybody. You can't discriminate against anyone for anything. And in fact, here's how I usually like to handle it with a seller. If a seller ever says to you, well, I don't want to sell my house to any fill in the blank, whatever it is, the answer that I always give is, hey, their money is green, so it doesn't matter. Like, that's how you got to make the decision, is based on the numbers. You can't do it based on any of the protected classes. You cannot do that. Okay? Any thoughts, questions on fair housing? Oh, one other thing. There are testers that will test you from time to time. And I can think of only one time that I really think it was a tester, that I got a phone call of somebody saying, and I don't remember even the question they asked me. They asked something that I was like, that is like a weird question for somebody to be asking me. And I hung up thinking, I'll bet that was a tester seeing how I would respond. But so you can't discriminate against any of the protected classes.
Well,
200.
Oh yeah, I told you you'd have to remind me. Ooh, a tie game here. You guys started
When
off
do you
so
get double
good.
jeopardy?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have any of those. All right.
Oh snap. Federal Law 800.
All right, here we go. Unlawful to discriminate based on any of the following: race, color, religion, sex, national origin.
What is a protected class?
No.
Oh,
Oh, that's not.
What's the law? This law says that it's unlawful to discriminate based on any of the following.
Equal housing opportunities. I don't know.
Close.
Instead of discrimination.
Close, but it's not.
Oh. Ding ding, Fair Housing Act.
Nope, we already just did fair housing. 1980s. What was the year? I can't remember. 1964? 68? What was the law? 1968. All right, Kelly.
this is Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
Good job.
That's
Oops.
Civil
Civil Rights Act, yes.
He just passed the
I
test.
was actually going to say, Kelly, were you an
really?
attorney before you came into this? Like, you're on top
I
of
was
it?
in mid pass. You remember the old test question?
Is that what it is? He just passed the test? All right, good job. Yes, so the civil rights, so which is tied to the fair housing, meaning we just can't discriminate on who it is. Okay, back to you guys again. What are you choosing? What's the attorney choosing?
Agency for 1,000.
All right. Agency continue. Here we go. Answer is, these become limited in limited agents.
Bling bling. Fiduciary duties.
Yeah, which ones?
Okay, so it's confidential, or no, loyalty and no, it's not confidentiality because you still have to maintain it.
Obedience.
You still have to do what they
No,
say.
you can't.
Oh yeah, obedience would be the other one. So loyalty and obedience,
There's three.
confidentiality.
Final answer?
Yes.
What were you going to say? All right, here we go. I think I did it to where one at a time.
Disclosure.
So they were only 2/3 right. So do they get 2/3 of the point?
Yes.
That's Team B, by the way. 30 points.
I know.
I know what I'm doing here. Quit confusing me.
Yeah, he was trying to trick. So undivided loyalty, confidentiality, and disclosure. What did you say? Obedience?
I said
That was my-
confidentiality, obedience, and loyalty.
Yeah, because back to the obedience piece, you still would obey whatever they ask you to do, as long as it's lawful. But the undivided loyalty, you obviously, why would confidentiality be limited?
Because anything that they say that affects the property, you have to share with the other party.
Okay, but wouldn't that be the truth? Wouldn't that be the same with? I mean, if there was something about the property,
Well, because the terms that they're willing to accept could become a material that fact. Because if the seller says we're going to accept 240 and then the buyer says, so what should we offer? I mean, you kind of have a duty to say, well, this is,
So it's still determined under decision making.
right? I feel like I'm making a fool of myself.
you're not making a fool of yourself. But to some extent, that confidentiality one is one that and disclosure. I personally, I still kind of that is the correct answer. But for me, I feel like what are you giving up in terms of confidentiality?
It's integrity. I mean, you as an agent have to have integrity.
Well, but it's telling you that you don't have to have confidentiality.
Full.
Full
It's gonna be
confidentiality. Right.
limited.
But where would you
So-
not?
So
Where
here,
would you
yeah.
not?
So here's how I think about it. Let me give it to you this way. Think of it this way. Let's say that a buyer calls you on the phone. So this will tie to the very first question we had. Buyer calls you on the phone and says, "I'm in a situation where I have to be in a property in the next 2 weeks. I would like to go see your property." Do you owe them any type of confidentiality?
Not until they sign up.
No. So I may have already told my seller, "Hey, these people have to buy right away." Well, then they come out and see the house, and now they say, "We want you to represent us," and you say, "Okay, I'm going to do that." Now I'm a limited agent. Now all of a sudden I can't share that, but I already had. So that confidentiality now is limited for that buyer because I had already shared part of the information.
Yeah, but that wasn't during limited agency.
Correct.
So I guess that's where I wonder is.
But it would become limited. So because of what they had already told me before, me now being their agent, I have now become limited in that full confidentiality because I've already shared.
So with that, would you need to tell them that you've already told the other party?
Yep.
Okay.
And I guess that's where I wonder, right? Because
Yep.
if they had told you that, and then the next you hadn't told your seller yet, and then they become your or you
And
become their
then-
agent, then you wouldn't disclose
disclose,
it, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and that's how I usually explain to limited agency to a seller is really there's not a whole lot of difference between me being your agent and the buyer's agent or another person. Because if you showed up, Cody, as the buyer's agent, yes, I have to tell my seller everything I know, but am I going to know everything you know? No. So really, as a limited agent, I always think of it as really not that much different. But where we get ourselves in trouble is we want to go with, no, you probably ought to offer a little bit more than that, because you do know what they're doing.
so with disclosures, I mean, what do you not have to disclose when you're a limited agent?
What would be limited? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, why is that not one of our fiduciary
Oh,
duties?
Well,
once you're a
because
limited agent?
okay, yeah, because let's say you are the buyer, and I'm the agent for both buyer and seller. You tell me this is the most I'm willing to pay for this house, but I only want to offer X amount. I can only go to the seller and say, "Here's what their offer is." I can't say, "Oh, well, he knows."
But that's no different than me as a buyer's agent.
Totally,
right?
that's what I'm saying. That's how I always explain it. Is it's no different. I wouldn't know
Oh, okay.
if that were the case, but I may know if I'm a limited agent, and I can't tell you. That's why it's.
So they're saying, okay.
So I may know, I just can't tell you. That's why it's limited.
Okay.
All right. I don't know what to do on points for that.
2/3.
All right. How much was it? Was it
2 or
1,000?
was it 1?
Two.
Wait.
No, wrong.
So,
two.
Sorry.
Listen to them, man.
It was
I know you threw me off. It worked.
6.
No accident. So we'll write it.
I just gave you 2,700. Close it. All right. Next.
You only gave us 500? No, you're not.
Oh, I did. All right.
Just for that, I think we should get through
That's
this.
not
29. How's that?
Okay.
That was more than, huh?
It's okay. We'll move
Well,
on.
that's rounding up, which
All right.
probably should have.
Okay. So what are we going next?
You're up, Travis.
Let's do agency continue for 800.
All right. Here we go. Answer is works to assist in negotiating a mutually acceptable transaction for both buyer and seller.
Mediation.
Did you make a noise?
No,
I
I
said
was
engage.
first and then you already did.
No, I know. I was talking to
Oh,
Samantha, but
gotcha.
she didn't. Her hand was up, but she didn't make a noise. So go ahead.
What did I just say?
Did you say limited agent?
No, I said mediation.
No.
Oh, that was nice.
Oh no.
Just shake your baby.
Oh gosh. I'll give you a hint in a minute. You're thinking too hard. Works to assist in negotiating a mutually acceptable contract for both the buyer and the seller. No.
Ding 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 ding. Real estate agent.
No. Yes, an agent, but dual agent. Close enough.
What?
Oh!
What did you say?
He said a dual agent. It's what we were just talking about.
That's what I said.
Limited agent.
Yeah, you said
That's really close.
Anyway, all right.
Good job, that counts.
Yeah, so limited agency. The key was for both buyer and seller here. So we just spent a bunch of time talking about limited agency, so we're not going to do that. All right, next. You guys started off good. You had the lead. There was one point you had the lead.
Yeah.
Federal laws is a long time.
Federal laws for what? 600. All right, here we go. It's another federal law. Eliminates discrimination against those with disabilities. This is a law.
Right. Disability
What
Act.
is the ADA?
That is correct.
Oh,
Oh.
Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, on this, I know you didn't ring in.
Hey, I got something right, but I didn't get points. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's true. You did. See, this is how you make boring stuff fun. Alright. Americans with Disability Act, now this doesn't apply much with us as agents unless you're doing rental wise, but on a rental, what would you have to do for somebody that wanted to change the property?
You'd have to change it.
At whose expense?
You have to allow them to change it at their expense.
And,
then change it back.
that's right.
Why
Now-
don't we have points for that?
What was it?
Sure.
That's my answer.
What the heck?
Jeopardy question.
Yay!
Oh, you were
Two
great.
on one.
It's
There you
Change the screen first and answer later.
201. Scream first. That's a pretty point.
Thanks, Russ, you're my favorite.
You're welcome. Alright, next. Who,
we need the
you guys got it.
600.
Oh, yeah. See, I
You guys
told you.
cheated on that though, it doesn't count.
ADA.
Oh.
Oh, that counts.
That was
the
the
answer.
How did he cheat?
Oh, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, exactly.
That counts.
All right, next.
Point.
Did I mention how big your suit was today?
Go to the next one. Thank you. Alright.
Let's do agency for 800.
Agency for 800. Here we go. Probably fiduciary duty, but I'm not sure. Obligates the agent to inform the principal of any material fact the agent learns about.
Disclosure.
That is correct.
I was thinking it.
Full disclosure.
Absolutely.
Full disclosure. I don't think that gets us half points. So.
Yeah, full disclosure. So anything that you know, you have to tell to your client, right? All right. Next.
State laws for 800.
All right. State law.
You're so cocky.
So, all right. Paying an unlicensed person for a referral.
Ding, ding, ding.
Illegal.
You can pay them as long as it was unsolicited and got
What's it?
raised.
Oh,
you want.
We're all learning here.
Jen doesn't care about games, just learning.
But remember, you're getting free lunch if you win.
No, you're not.
I got raised to 250, I think.
It did?
It
Yeah.
did?
Because it was 150.
Yeah.
I think it got raised about 2 months ago to 250.
I better
You
check that
think
because
you're trying to make us all screw
I better
up.
check that
You're
because
all
No,
in
because
trouble.
That's how you clean up the
in my
competition.
coaching meeting with Katie last week, she brought that up.
better check that. What? Here's the question though. What is that called? That's what I'm looking for. Is what is it called? So what he's talked about is so far is all correct, but that's not what it's called.
Ding ding.
Yeah. What did you?
Referral fee?
Close.
Referral fee. No.
Nope.
Thank you.
It's close enough.
Ding, ding, ding. What is greasing the wheels?
That is correct. No.
It's good business.
I don't know. It's
It's not a
I'm gonna let the other two teams will help decide. Is this close enough, what he said?
Oh,
That's
That's
not close enough.
Yes,
To referral fee?
yes.
Well, I would sort of agree because a referral fee actually would be to who? A licensed
Yeah.
person. This is for an unlicensed. You can't pay a referral fee to an unlicensed.
We'll take that.
I got a fee, so 400 points.
All right. I can do this.
No half points. No.
How about just 4,000? I'll give him 100.
You can't be true.
All right, so let me. All right, so let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
just listen to them.
Let's talk about it for a minute. So I'm gonna have to find out because it has been 150. When I first started, it was $50. Then it went to 150, and that would be awesome if it has gone up to 250. It probably would make sense that it probably should at this point. But
So
keep
this
in
means your
mind.
neighbor's daughter referred her daughter, and she bought the house.
Uh-huh.
So just a person.
Yep. And here's what I recommend. In one of the other classes I teach, in the SOI class, I say this again as well, but I think it's worth repeating. I would highly recommend for you that what you do when somebody gives you a referral fee, like there's a Cold Stone over here in the parking lot, buy some Cold Stone gift certificates or something. I mean, Starbucks, whatever you want to do. When somebody just gives you a referral, send them a thank you card with a $20 Cold Stone. Hey, thanks for thinking of me and referring that person. You meet with them and then they sign agency. I would send another gift certificate to Chili's, something like that to them. Send them to dinner. Appreciate you sending that person to me. We've signed a contract together that we're going to be working together. Then at closing, send them one to, if it's $250 now, send them one to Ruth's Chris or something that says, hey, just closed on this property. Appreciate you referring. If you will do that, you'll get constant coming. Now, there's a key that I heard somebody say, is you can only do this for what type of a fee? Unsolicited. So the key with that is it can't be solicited, meaning this. If you do that, start doing it, what I just said, do that and keep doing it, because in the event the person ever called you and said, so Jackie, hey, I referred that person, you never sent me the Cold Stone gift certificate, what's going on? That now could be considered a solicited, and at that point it's not valid anymore.
So that's my question.
Yeah, I don't understand.
What is unsolicited? Because
What's
you could make the
solicited?
argument that when I'm doing my SOI stuff, I'm soliciting referrals.
Yeah.
Right?
So they give you a
So is that so they give me a referral, so can I still do what
Yes.
you're saying?
Here's how I would interpret the law for me. What you can't do is I couldn't call you and say, hey, Cody, every time you refer somebody to me, I'm going to send you a gift certificate for whatever. You can't advertise it is really where you're
You
going
can
to probably
induce
get in
them
trouble.
with a payment. Okay.
Yeah, if you were doing something of, hey, it'll be worth your time if you refer
So,
your friends
so
to
here's
Is that
here's
okay?
my
Is that okay?
No, it's not okay.
It'll be worth your time if you're.
No, you can't do that.
So let me ask you,
You can't say that.
just from a
Have you been
business
saying
perspective.
Why
Why has the
I was gonna
why
say,
the
you just start doing that then.
if they put a cap, why would that necessarily be bad to say, hey, every time you refer somebody, it's too, I know it's illegal, but why have they taken such a hard stance?
Good question.
Because other industries do it all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Russ, my question is, I know you can't advertise on Facebook, I'm gonna give you Cold Stone gift certificates. But if you're talking to your friends and family, I wouldn't promise anything specific, but why can't you say, something
Because the
along the
divisions-
lines that I treat my people who give me referrals really well, or like say something so because that motivates people to give you referrals.
Yeah, and for
Not
whatever
like you
reason, they have said it as it has to be an unsolicited referral.
Okay, so what we do is once we give the gift cards, then we ask, please tell all your family and friends I gave you the Cold Stone gift card.
That's still the same thing.
No.
So.
Well, you could say that. You could say, tell all your friends and family I gave you a gift card. What you can't say is that I'll do the same thing for them.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
How about a solid?
I would say you don't have to worry so much about that, meaning as long as when you get the referral, you give them that,
Yes, then they're gonna keep.
they're gonna, it won't take long before they pick up on, oh, every time I give a referral to them, they do that. Huh.
And I understand that because say agents that are making a lot of money could promise a king size bed if you buy from me, and that's not fair to those that aren't
yeah.
doing as well and can't afford it. So it does protect us from certain people getting an edge on the market, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy with her because she's gonna give me.
Can you do that?
No.
Oh, you can do that. Say if you buy from me, you'll
Well,
get
if you're
$200. $200.
Hold that thought for now.
You can't.
Hold
No,
that
my
thought
bad.
for now. There's another question for that. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, next.
Is there a team?
Who got that one? Oh, sort of got that one. Who half got that one? Peter. You half got that one. So
I
choose
have
the next
got that one. So they should.
What?
I have got
one. No, go ahead.
You stole their answer.
We don't need no pity points. We're trying to pity points.
Hey,
We're still learning.
I was gonna let
we're
you
at
pick.
right.
All right.
Oh, back here. Tuesday.
Agency continued for 200.
All right. Go to an easy one, which is not necessarily. Account for all money or property entrusted to the agent.
Earn his money! Oh.
I heard him first.
What is escrow?
No,
There you did.
And,
Principal broker.
no.
um,
We're talking about fiduciary duties.
duties, accountability for all monies.
Yes.
Man.
Ooh.
No, he's.
Peter knows his fiduciary duties. All right. We're slowly catching you.
Oh, no.
Never. All right, next.
It's like 1,000.
We'll be back to loss in a minute.
Agency for 600.
All right. Clearing off the column. Obligates the agent to place the best interest of the principal above all other interests, including the agent's own. Ding, ding, ding. Kelly.
You're just digging it.
5, 4, 3. See, that is correct. Which one?
2.
2.
Obedience.
Ding, ding, ding. Loyalty.
That one is. This one is the loyalty.
Oh!
Uh-oh. They just passed. They just passed you.
It's because the heat got turned on. It was like, oh my gosh, they're about to pass us.
All right, next.
We're losing our.
I'll start to cheat for you.
So, let's go on.
What?
Agency continued. 600.
All right, agency continued for 600. Here we go. You ready? No statement or action can result in fraud or misrepresentation.
This is like one of those one workers.
Yeah, this one's a little bit tougher, but
Don't harm us? I don't know.
so this one is not actually a fiduciary duty. So you owe this to everyone.
Oh, ding ding ding. Honesty.
Yes.
Thank you. I have yelled many.
Eric, high five.
That was one out of 10.
Eric,
Good job.
high five.
I took away 1 point.
You took away one of their points.
I know, I took away 1 point.
Siren.
All right, so yes, yeah, even though, yeah, Samantha's left, so.
We're not gonna win
Not with that.
Even though
There's not enough points to catch up.
Yeah.
Where are your affirmations?
So even though we don't have fiduciary duties, we still have to everyone, we have to be honest.
I'm
All right.
I'm messing with
Next, to the back of the room.
We would like 200 in state laws.
All right.
Thinking high.
200. Answer is, when advertising, the name of the brokerage must be.
At least half the font of your name.
Okay, good. That is correct. Now, and actually though, the law has actually just changed on that one too. So, but I left it. That's still, I'm leaving, and I'll tell you why I'm leaving it. Is that still being the answer? Is so the name of the brokerage cannot be smaller than half the size of the licensee's name. So whatever size font your name is in, the brokerage has to be in at least half of that size. Now, they changed the law recently to say that the name of the brokerage has to be a reasonable size. Now, define reasonable. Yeah, it's pretty broad, so it's hard. So the good news is it doesn't have to be a half. I would just say, for you, err on the side of keeping the name of the brokerage, the font that is half the size.
You mean smaller?
Would be okay. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. So if your font was 12, it has to be at least 6.
And why is that?
Yeah, good question. I don't know what the reasoning is.
It's the broker lobby groups.
It probably is. No, it probably is the brokers. It probably is the
Yeah.
brokers saying, yeah, we want our name to be there as well. But yeah, it does let the public know. Like, people know who Century 21 is. You call somebody and say you're with Century 21, they don't think you're with the bank. Versus, I started my career at Coldwell Banker, and it was not uncommon for people, like weekly, somebody would walk into our office and say, I need to cash a check. Like, or where's your ATM? We would get either, can I cash a check, or where's your ATM? And it was like, we sell real estate. But you don't have that problem with Century 21. They know who we are. All right, good. Who got that? Did they give you points?
I did.
Uh-oh. All right, where are we going next? Come on.
Contracts for 400.
All right, legitimate use. Now remember, we're talking about the elements of a contract. There are certain elements.
What is water rights?
No,
Ah,
we're talking about a contract.
contract.
This is a contract, so these are the elements that have to be in to make something a contract. It has to be. It's another word for legitimate.
What is it in writing?
Nope, that was statute frauds. No, that is one of the elements of a contract, but that's not.
If you said something I didn't hear, you're about to give a hint, so I didn't hear.
What did I say?
He said something you were saying. It's something words.
Ding ding ding. Legal purpose.
Yes.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh! What's your name?
That's awesome.
What?
What is your name?
I'm gonna make sure I made this correct.
She's gonna make it in person.
Yes. So on a contract, what makes it a contract is it has to be for a legal use. So we could have the sacrifice and the benefit. We could do all of those things about selling drugs, but you're not going to be able to enforce that contract in court because it's not for a legal purpose. All right, next.
Contract.
This arm
Who wants this?
This arm
Did we get the
I need direction.
Yes, I did.
What do you think, Diane?
What do you
Contract.
say, Lance?
Contracts for 600.
All right, here we go. Answer is not illiterate, minor, insane, alien, or deceased.
I think you can sign a contract.
That's true, but what
Who
is it
can
called?
sign a contract?
I know,
Who
which-
can-
Wait,
Who-
ding ding.
Wait, if you're on my team, help.
Buyer, seller.
We needed something, child.
No, it's a question.
Yeah,
So
so what would be the term for that?
would be
They have to be what?
legitimate
Ding 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 ding
signer,
ding.
Closest.
Competency. Yeah.
legitimate signer, competent person is the same thing.
I agree.
Okay, then you're both wrong.
Never
Ding,
mind,
ding,
we
ding.
can't do
I don't know what to do on this one
Valid,
because you're all kind of right.
valid.
It's not a buyer, seller.
I think competent is the key word. Whoever says competent.
Yeah, who said competent?
That would be him.
They thought it first. though.
Hey, we are losing.
You guys-
Yeah, they thought about it first.
Sorry.
It's so embarrassing. At least.
You had it, you just didn't have the right term.
We knew what we were talking about, right?
Yes, you did. All right, next.
Sure.
Federal laws 400.
All right, federal laws for 400. So this is probably going to be another act or something. Truth in lending.
Ding ding ding. TILA, Truth in Lending Act.
Oh.
Federal, nobody was gonna get it. Federal Consumer Protection Act. Credit.
I
No
got Act,
face.
so that's
You did get
one-
act, so we'll give you one. Alright. I'll let you choose again.
Maybe make it still be this.
Yes.
Alright, state laws for 600. This is a good one.
What's the answer though? Federal consumer.
Answer is gift given by an agent or a broker to a buyer or a seller.
Referral.
It's not referral.
Referral gift.
It's close. It's not referral.
Ding ding ding. Closing gifts?
Gift is part of the answer.
Gift. Not gift. Referral gift.
Said that already.
The problem is you guys are never
Gift.
you're never gonna get it, so I probably should just give it to them. I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Oh, it's okay.
Gifts and inducements.
Inducements. Oh, that's
And so this would be like, if you buy with me, I'll send you on vacation to Hawaii.
Yeah, so this now so I wanna make sure you guys are clear on this. For somebody giving you a referral, somebody calling you referring a friend, that one has a limit of 150 or 250.
I can find it.
Yeah, we'll have to look and see. Until we verify it, stick with 150, you'll be safe. But on this, what's the limit?
if they close with you.
There's
I think that's 100.
If they buy or sell with me.
What's the
And or I can use it as an inducement to get them to list with me as a buyer. So what's the limit?
There's not.
I don't think there is.
Yeah, there's no limit.
Okay, now I'm confused. You said you can use it to get them to buy or sell. What, you said you can't.
Not referral.
For a referral, you can't say to somebody, if you refer people to me,
Oh,
but you can say to somebody, if you list your home with me, I'll give you a trip to Hawaii.
you can.
Absolutely.
So can you make the blanket statement advertising?
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that on
In
Facebook.
fact,
If
when you
list
come
your
around-
house and you and your family to Hawaii.
You've seen that?
I've
Yeah.
seen that on
Or
Facebook a couple
there's-
times.
Or you go to the movie theater at Jordan Commons, I think it is, and like at least I don't know about the women's, but in the men's, when you're standing at a urinal, there's a thing of like, get a free lease on a car for a year or something like
Oh,
that
yeah.
if you list your house or whatever.
So you can do whatever amount you want then.
Whatever you want. Yeah, and in fact, there was a company that I probably could say it since it doesn't matter. But Homey for a while was list your house with us, get a purple mattress for free or whatever. Buy a house with us, get a purple
Okay,
mattress.
this is where we're confused. So you can offer whatever you want for them directly to list or buy or sell. You just, for referrals.
For referrals, you can.
That's nuts.
That's the same
That
thing.
doesn't make any sense.
It's I know what you're saying, but it's this is here's this will probably explain it best. The reason you can do this and the why it's okay to do that is because what's the difference if I said if you list your house with me I'll do it for 5%? I mean, isn't that just an inducement?
Well,
So
instead of
the reason for our clients is because commissions are negotiable, so they can't stop us from doing that. From saying if you list your house with me I'll give you a trip to Hawaii or whatever.
maybe say that to your sphere or your friends, but like if you list with me, I'll give you this amount of money back. Wink.
Now you can, now you can,
Why do you have to wink? You don't have to.
but you can say that
So
to
they
them.
can tell everybody else. Wink.
But so to be clear, that's
So
perfectly legal.
there's a loophole.
Like if it's asking them to list their property.
Yes.
Now if you're asking,
then
if
they'll-
you're giving them to help somebody
That
else
is
list their
becoming
property,
an
that's
unsolicited.
That's what you see.
okay.
Yep. Does that
So
make
that's
sense?
perfectly legal. What he's
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you don't even have to wink
Because you're
because
not offering them something to bring
Refer
for friends or
someone else.
whatever.
Yeah.
You're just saying, if you do this, I'll give you this.
And they're like,
And
"Gee,
that's
I need
where
to-"
they're like, hey, we bought our house with so and so. You should check them out because they'll give you
Yeah.
a trip.
Yeah.
exactly. All right,
Martin.
and I gave you your points, right? All right, last one. You ready? Answer is: a real estate broker is deemed to have skill and expertise in real estate matters superior to that of the average person.
You didn't gain. You didn't gain.
Oh, maybe
Oh, God.
Question
True is not the answer.
The question is, who is a broker? What is a broker?
No.
Ding ding.
I'm not sure if I'm remembering this one either, actually, now that I think about it, but
We're deemed to have skill and expertise in real estate contracts,
yes,
in understanding and filling those out.
yes.
Isn't that part of it?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Well, it doesn't say anything about contracts.
No, that's true.
This is for the winning points, guys. Between you two.
Go ahead, principal.
I believe in that.
Gosh. I'm going blank on what the answer is right now.
It
You
is
just know what it's not.
Ding ding.
Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I know what it is.
Caveat emptor.
No.
Because it's.
I gotta think of how to give you a hint, because you're right. If we're just like, depending on which team gets it right.
What is the contract?
Well,
Tiebreaker.
even if they get it right, we tie.
So, I know.
That's a win-win.
Well, they're 5,800.
We don't know.
No, they're at 5,000.
All right.
Oh, is that fine?
Okay, you guys gotta help me. This who rings in first on this.
Alright.
Ready, set, go.
It is a. I'm gonna give him a hint. Of course, you could answer in. And then it is a fiduciary duty. Is what one of the fiduciary duties is. What this is talking about. It's not competency. It's the only fiduciary duty we haven't talked about.
Ding ding ding. With reasonable care.
Yes.
Good job! We voted one.
Yeah.
Good
No,
job.
there's participation.
Exactly.
Which one were you guys?
A. They were A.
We're done.
They're B.
You were B.
No, we're B.
So it's a tie.
It's a tie.
Wow.
Woo!
Well, good news. We have their final Jeopardy.
Do we need to settle this on breaker?
Our
I
final
was gonna
hazard.
say congratulations, Century 21 Everett.
Okay.
You won.
What are you gonna wager? Everett's like I'm leaving.
2,000.
I don't know. Come on,
Wait, how does this
discuss
work?
this.
You before I give you what the question is, you have to say how much you're gonna wager of your money, so that if you're wrong and they are right.
I think you should reduce the prices.
Oh, you know we're reducing points on this one. This one, if you this
so
one,
it's a bet.
you're either
If we win, we get the points that they put up. If they win, they get the points that we put up.
there will be
We want to
one.
go it all in, but then we could actually.
Except for you don't talk out. If you say we're going all in, they're gonna bet $1 or something.
I didn't say
Oh,
I
okay.
said team points.
How much are you guys gonna wager? All of it? You could still win. You're like, what? You're 1,500. You can wager all of it because if they all do all of theirs and they're wrong, they can lose.
Oh, that's what you're Let's do
Let's
it.
do 24.
All right, how much?
Oh, that's right. No.
Yeah, you got. Are you writing it down?
Yes.
How much? Yes.
Sure.
You say on that.
No, just tell me.
No. Yeah. $3 on that
Yeah, when you drop it, it brings
They're wagering your money.
Wait a second, guys.
Here's the sad thing. None of you are gonna get it right. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
That's not a positive.
I know it's not a positive outcome.
Pre-believe.
All right. Your success depends on you doing these 5 things consistently. So now you got to write them down and tell me what they are. So here's how we're going to do it. I'll be shocked if any of you get all 5 of them right. So here's what we're going to do is whichever of the 5 things that I put up there, however many of those you have, whoever gets the most right.
Now, is
Wait.
this stuff that would be on the test, or is this
No,
like,
this has not going to. Yeah, great question. This has nothing to do with the test. This has everything to do with things you have probably, if you're listening to the daily messages of George and John, it's going to be things that you're going to have, hear them talking. Yeah, in fact, George talked about it last week, I think, actually. These 5 things, you're right. So this is going to be Everest related, not real estate related. What 5 things do you need to do consistently that will ensure your
Is
success?
it in the company foundations class?
It may be.
Let's see, it was your class.
I'm not going to tell you if it is or not. I'm just saying it may be.
I'm gonna go tell these guys.
There they go, Chris. Drink water daily. Drink water daily. No. Drink water daily. No. Oh. No. This is where I need to be going. Do 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 do. I've got the thing. I don't know if the sound works on this. Let's see. Media not.
All right.
Here's the other problem with this is I hear John and George talk about these 5. They'll say if you'll do these 5 things, and they have 2 different things that they say, meaning like 3 out of the 5 are always the same. So that's why I say maybe. So here's the case. Let me see what you got. I'll give you a hint like I did them.
Yeah, play it louder.
Those are the 5. You got one right.
Mindset is one. Mindset.
Nope.
Oh, dang.
What's the name of that thing? What's the name?
It just looks like it doesn't.
Oh,
I
you
think I
did.
remember what day it was.
Oh, you just think you remember what day it was. All right.
Do you have that in your list?
Some of you are just beginning your journey. Desired success is a greatness is from them. And the strengths and dialects to be used as extraordinary as they are, and as you memorize them.
Like, Russ, I haven't.
Got it.
Twice.
No.
Oh my God.
I'm not the top
So far, it's like a tie. All 3 of you have the same right one. One right one.
One right one.
No. No. No.
He's on another tangent then.
Actually, one of you has a second one that's partially correct. How much time do you want?
My brain hurts.
One of them is.
One of them.
Okay.
Two of them are the same one, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
Alright.
Okay.
You giving up?
Yeah, let's have some.
Here's the problem is
good
these,
discussion.
I think, well, let me see where these end up, because there may be a winner. But let me see what you come up with.
How would you do this?
What?
Oh, you're gonna tell us and then
You're
we're
just gonna tell us.
I'll tell you in a second.
then we'll all be successful.
We're gonna install it.
We're all gonna be successful once we know.
So, all your schedule, know your destination.
Yeah, no.
Alright, you ready? Yeah! Ready for me to show you?
These are all great things, but.
Yeah, these are all really good things. Here it is.
What?
Oh, duh.
I'll have that.
So set an appointment, all of you guys had that.
Set an appointment.
Call 3 to 5 SOI per day.
Prospect.
Well, that's what prospecting is set an appointment.
Yeah.
Call 3 to 5 SOI a day. You guys did have SOI written down.
That's what.
One new listing per week. Call all your sellers weekly. And then the fifth thing is participate. Being-
What?
Huh?
What?
Summit, base camps, morning ascent, role plays, this class, all of those things. If you will do those things, you will be successful in this business. So, now, how much did you guys wager?
Say what?
They wagered all their money and their money. How much?
2,600.
They did 2,600. So yeah. they
Yeah,
won.
because you wagered
Give
the
'em a-
most.
Let's give them their prize.
Yay! Good job. Good job.
All right. Any questions?
Where are we going from this?
I don't know. Where do you guys?
Barbecue place.
Yeah.
Russ, does that
I
mean
said
set an
it's
appointment
Chris,
per
right?
day? Is he?
Yeah, it's one appointment every day.
Per day.
Really good.
And then, so if you, okay, so you're setting an appointment every day, you're calling 3 to 5 SOI and doing other prospecting things so that you get one listing.
Yep. Yeah, so if you pay attention, like on a lot of the messages and stuff that George will do, he will consistently be talking about those things. And a lot of times he'll come up and just say, if you'll do these 5 things, you'll be successful.
Over what period of time though? Like how can we speed that up?
How can you speed it up?
Yeah.
I would, so the speeding it up
What's
would
his
be
time?
set more appointments.
What's his time frame over successful?
That's a good question. I don't know that he has ever said an exact
Successful
time
over 30
frame.
year career?
Successful
but-
can only be determined by the person
There
who's
you go.
trying to succeed.
But I'm grateful that all of you had down set the appointments though, because that is the key, is if you will set one appointment every day, all the rest falls into place. You don't have to worry about. But with that being said, call the 3 to 5 SOI every day. If you will do that, then so I'll answer that part for you. If you'll do that for a 6 to 9 month period, and the reason I say 6 to 9 months is because it depends on who you've got in there. And in my SOI class that I teach, which I don't think you've been to yet, but I'll show you the formula for that. But 6 to 9 months is what I would say is calling the SOI is what will make the business easier over the long haul. So ultimately, if you find the business is not getting easier the longer you're in it, I guarantee you it's because you're not working your sphere of influence. So anyway.
Could you define, because I haven't taken that class, what is your sphere of influence? Like,
Basically,
what
anybody,
about
if you
all
called them on the phone and said your name, they would know who you are. You know, if you called and said, hey, this is Jen Jolly, then they would go, oh, hey, Jen, how you doing? Then that would be somebody that's considered SOI. If they said, who? I don't know you, that's not going to be an SOI.
And they don't need to be in this state, is that correct?
To begin with, I would say no, they do not need to. Probably you will want them to be down the road, but to begin with, no. So,
Because people
Okay.
in your SOI.
Well, thank you for being here. Oh, so we have a conflict Thursday though. So I'm gonna be sending out an email reminder of what I'm about to say. But no class on Thursday because we got double booked in this room. And I was going to just find somewhere else for us to do our class, but then I got thinking some of you might wanna be in the class they're gonna do here.
What is it?
It's
You got an
New
email,
builder.
read your
It's
free
a- yeah, it's
You got
like-
an email.
It's like a builder, somebody coming to teach you like what you need to know about new construction kind of a thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's
So-
a 3-hour class, you have to register, so you better get the email.
yeah. Because of that, I just decided we'll just cancel ours. So the next class we'll do, I think actually, and then I think the summit the next Tuesday.
Yep.
So our next class won't be till next Thursday, but I will do was supposed to be this Thursday Company Foundation. The next Thursday's business planning. I'm just gonna hit both of them in one class next week, so. Sound good?
Wait, next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday's summit,
Oh,
so next Thursday. So we won't do another one of these classes till next
I'm
Thursday.
having a baby next week.
You are?
Yeah.
Congrats.
so good.
No, she's being induced Tuesday, but we'll see when.
Nice.
Congrats.
Is that your first?
Second.
Second, okay.
Boy.
Awesome, congrats.
Bring him to Summit. Get him
Huh?
started.
Yeah.
Bring us.
Hey guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I won't see you guys for a week or so.
I will not either.
I'll miss you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering.
Yeah.
Hey, well.